Jason Hawes has just dropped an absolute bombshell when it comes to the Conjuring house, and a pretty big update. So obviously, as we know at this current time, Jason Hawes is well in the running once again to try and get the Conjuring house. It was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. Man, I'm getting whiplash over here with how hard my head is whipping back and forth, keeping up with what's actually trying to be going on. Now, just before we get into it, obviously I want to clear up some rumours and misconceptions. Nick Groff posted over on his Twitter page and over on his Instagram story stating that, you know, I told you guys that me and Tessa were looking to buy a property. They're not buying the Conjuring house. They just made a little joke about it. So this is the post that they posted over on Twitter. Right, I told you Tessa and I were house hunting, hashtag the Conjuring house, and everyone was like, oh my god, that means that they're going to be doing this and all the rest of it. But no, that's not the case. Nick even confirmed this and stated we're only hunting, not buying. But now that I've got everyone's attention, go and support Jason Hawes to go and save the Conjuring house, and then tagging in the GoFundMe. So that's kind of the first thing that I wanted to clear up, because people saw him in my thumbnail yesterday and I think I might have just missed it in translation. Nick is not going for the Conjuring house. He's actually very supportive of Jason with this ongoing situation. Now, moving forwards from that, I've seen a lot of people throw a lot of shade at Jason over the past kind of couple of days to try and say, well, you know, why is Jason doing a fundraiser when, you know, he's valued and net worth is $3 million. That doesn't actually mean he's got $3 million, by the way. That just means his assets altogether are at the value of $3 million. But, you know, he's worth $3 million. Why isn't he just buying it himself? Why doesn't he need the community support? So, from what I've gathered, right, and Jason's not asked me to clear this up in any capacity, but I just felt like I wanted to, because obviously I'm the one that's reporting on it, so people are, like, looking to me for answers. Basically, Jason he's already stated that if he wanted it, he could absolutely go and get it, but he never wanted it, right? And it wasn't until the plea of Andrea Perrin, you know, who just had her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Andrea. You know, she stated, I want Jason to have this property. And then he was like, do you know what? Let's do it. But he obviously wants to keep the costs low so that the large majority of people who typically can't go and afford to pay to go to the Conjuring house before, when it was owned by Jacqueline, for example, when it was worth about, you know, $2,500 to go in and just do an overnight investigation. He wants that to be accessible for everyone, and he doesn't want to profit from this. So the only way that he can do that is by not investing his own money, because he's going to have to bankroll $1.5 million, which is a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? And if he was to do that, he's obviously going to want to get back that profit. So he will have to charge more money. But if he can get the support of the community, he can keep the costs low, and then that means, you know, all the rest of it. When it was off, he already stated he was going to be issuing refunds and all the rest of it. So that's nothing to be really worried about. But moving on from that, everyone has been stating, why do you need a GoFundMe? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? You're not committed. That's kind of the crux of the situation. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, because Jason's just dropped an absolute bombshell, which completely kind of blows out of the water that sentiment now, which means that that's kind of an argument that people shouldn't really be able to lodge against him anymore. So over on my YouTube video, right, the video entitled Breaking Conjuring House Sale is back on with Jason Hawes, right, this one right here. I apologise for the blurry screen in the past few, by the way. I tried to clean my camera and I just ended up using my finger and I left like a proper filthy smudge over it. So it's looked pretty crappy. Hopefully it's a bit better today. I've used some like glass cleaner. Right, anyway, little caveat out of the way. By the way, if you haven't already, drop a like on this video. I forgot to do the whole YouTube thing. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. But he commented, Jason did, on this video down here. So he said, I'm working on a video, can't say too much, but we can 100% do this. This will be historic. Obviously, that is the video that he dropped here. The fight to save the Conjuring house is back on. I think it was that one. But he posted a comment to this one saying, how about this? And this was 12 hours ago, by the way. So this is fresh off the heat. How about this? To show my commitment, I will personally match every dollar raised from my GoFundMe up to $1 million. That is nuts. So basically what Jason's saying here is every dollar that has been invested and continues to be invested up to a cap of $1 million, he will match pound for pound. Well, not pound for pound, dollars for dollar. Because to be fair, if he was to match it pound for pound, right, compared to the dollars, the pound is worth so little that he would just have to start taking funds out of the GoFundMe. But there we go. Anyway, so to put that into context, that doesn't mean that it reaches $500,000 and then he matches a further $500,000. That means if people put in $1 million, he will match $1 million, which will make it $2 million. If people put in 500,000, he will put in 500,000, which will make it $1 million. If they put in 750,000, he will personally invest 750,000. So that means that, you know, basically he'll pay 50%, we as a community will pay 50%. So if we take a little look at the GoFundMe right now, which by the way is on absolute smoke. So this GoFundMe right now is on $97,223. That were, let me just refresh that, $73. So someone's clearly put in, you know, a bit more money. So, you know, that's how much has been raised, and that's from 2.6 thousand donations so far, which is quite insane. 815 people have just made a donation, which is crazy. So obviously that's what the donations are currently at, which means that Jason, let's round, I'm shy at maths, so we're just going to round it up to the nearest 100,000, right? So let's say that's at $100,000. That means that Jason is going to match at $100,000. So this isn't just sat on 100,000 anymore. This is sat on $200,000 because Jason is matching pound for pound. All right, so that means it's not longer on 7% or 8% when it's at 100,000. That'll be on 16% towards the goal. So basically double everything that you see on here. Double everything. That's huge. Now, obviously, as well, I think there needs to be a massive applause to the community for this. When did this get shared? When was this first announced? Let's take a little look at Jason's page. I think it was 7 days ago. So from 7 days ago, the community's managed to raise just under $100,000, which is crazy. But with that, the GoFundMe has been taken down and put back up twice for about 2 days in total. So that let's say, if we do the maths, that's been up for about 5 days. $100,000 made in 5 days. That's about $20,000 a day that has been raised for the Conjuring House. At this trajectory, obviously, you know, like, let's keep pushing it. Obviously, it's going to... It looks like we could possibly get there, which is crazy. And that means that Jason would be able to, obviously, you know, get his hands on the Conjuring House. So, I mean, it can't be understated what's been done here. So, yeah, I think that that's quite a big deal. To the fact that Jason said, how about this, to show my commitment, I'll personally match every dollar raised from the GoFundMe. Because, obviously, before that wasn't the case, but now it is. It is the case. Jason is willing to invest his own money, put in up to $1 million into this fund, right, of his own personal funds, so long as everyone else kind of, you know, does their fair share as well, I suppose. I think that that's absolutely crazy. I think that, you know, Jason has kind of, I suppose, seen the arguments made and been like, you know what, fair enough, I'll invest as well. He was always going to have to invest, in my personal opinion. I think that he would have needed to put something in to be able to just help it along its way. But the fact that he's willing to match dollar for dollar is pretty big. What do you guys think of this? Obviously, Jason is going hell for leather at this now. He's gone from a man who obviously didn't want it to now a man who's willing to just push it hard. And pushing it hard is what he is doing. Obviously, we need to keep an eye on Jason's channel if you want to be kept up to date with the latest news. He's got it, not me. I'm just kind of going off of the information that I'm given. So keep an eye on Jason's YouTube channel over on YouTube, Jason Hawes, if you've not subscribed to it or following it, if you want to be kept up to date. The past 3 videos, of course, have been talking about this significant situation. It'll be interesting to see what goes on. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. We're down there. Jump, get the hell out of that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.